Hello, online pipe community. Ethan, Parsimonious Piper here. Today I am with Randy, Ragamuffin Piper. Randy, how are you doing?
Doing great. Pleasure to be with you today.
Well, thanks for joining. Let's get the housekeeping out of the way right up front. That seems to be the thing to do. In a Peterson spigot that was gifted to me, it is dedicated to Lakeland blends, and I am smoking some Bosun Cut Plug. What have you got there?
Well, this is an estate that I bought. It's a 9 millimeter filtered. It's a Montana, and it's not new or polished or anything, but it's a great pipe. I think it's a 715 Montana Italian,
Hmm,
and just because we got to have some porch time, so
there you
that's
go.
what that's what we're having today with you.
Well, let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are, what you do or have done, what makes you tick.
Well, I was a welder blacksmith as a career, as my real job. I started working for Public Works as my main career in the road department. So I was the last blacksmith ever hired in that particular county. I was a certified heavy diesel mechanic. And I did that for about 17 years until my body told me you might want to consider a different line of work. And so I moved into engineering in the same county. So I kept my career going, my retirement going, and all that. And I did construction inspection for outside work for the next 17 or 18 years. I worked there for about 34 years total,
Hmm,
and
wow,
retired in 2020.
nice. Um, now, I happen to know a little bit more about some of your other hobbies, but let's get into the pipe smoking first. What what got you into pipe smoking? How long have you been at this?
Well, I think it's been about 10 or 12 years, somewhere in there, about 10 or 11 years ago. Um, I was the youngest of four boys, and so my parents were older when I was born, and I ended up being the caretaker for my dad when he was sick with cancer, and so I had a lot of caretaking going on, and the engineering part of that job was pretty stressful. So one thing led to another, and I was having a hard time unwinding at the end of the days, and the stress was building up, and then I had to take care of my mom. My wife got cancer. My brother got cancer. And so I was really looking for something
Hmm.
to peak that sensory relax. And my grandfather smoked a pipe way, way back when I was a little kid. He passed away in 71. So that tells you how far back that memory goes.
Hmm.
But every time in my lifetime that I smelled that smell, it would instantly bring me back to those simpler days. And it's funny how the guys that smoked that particular brand that I was smelling and reminded me that they would never tell you what it was. But about 10 or 12 years ago, I picked up a pipe and I failed at it a couple of times. But I think thanks to guys like Mutton Chop and just like everybody will tell you, it was a lot more successful this time because I was really looking for something to take this little hyperactive, high stress guy and teach him how to sit down and concentrate and concentrate at relaxing instead of all the things that are, you're balancing all those plates at the same time.
Hmm. So your first attempt was unsuccessful. What
Yeah.
what blends were you trying to smoke back then?
Well, when you're not into the YTPC or connected to the pipe community, you get what you get at a store. And 10 or 12 years ago, you could still get pipe tobacco at the drugstore. And
Yeah.
so it was things like uh, I know my granddad smoked uh, uh, man, it's one of the codger blends. I can't even think of it right now.
Sir Walter
Is
Raleigh, Prince Albert. Carter
Prince
Hall.
Albert, as Prince Albert, because we always made the joke everybody makes. And so I tried Prince Albert and I was like, that's not the smell. That's just not it. And I think I had a cheap corncob pipe from somewhere and it was just a disaster because it wasn't. I didn't do it with any tutelage. There wasn't a mentor telling me this is how you do it. This is, shoot for this and breathe slowly. And I'm a pretty high strung guy a lot of the times, and so learning to breathe slow, the breath method, relax, let the pipe burn. That wasn't the way I started.
Yeah, me either. The only thing I had smoked before I tried a pipe was cheap cigars, and you chooch on those things as fast as you want because it doesn't matter. They don't taste good no matter how you smoke them. So you know you
That's
it
right.
doesn't really, so then when you try a pipe and you discover that all you're doing is scorching your mouth and not really tasting anything, yeah, that you start looking around for a little bit of help. um,
Right.
so what have you, I wouldn't say graduated, shifted towards smoking now?
Well, I know, mostly an aromatics guy. I the ragamuffin porch time, this porch time blend is a mixture of Sutliff Sunset Rum and Lane 1Q.
Mm,
And it's funny how I don't really smoke either of one of those by themselves anymore. Uh, it's very, very rare that I'll pull just that out and smoke it because I like the blend of it. It just makes a nice mild all day, anytime, and it has a particular room note that when I go uptown and I'm smoking on a bench, we have a little town. We live in a small town, and so people have followed me down the sidewalk, saying, "No, no, keep going. We're smelling. We're just enjoying the pipe," and that has happened more times than I can tell you. So uh,
got your own stalkers there.
that's yeah. But Eileen's Dream, I think I tried that one because of mutton chop, and that's just one of my favorite. I will call it a special occasion, just because it's not cheap, but it's so good. It's so good. And I've recently got into a little more of the hybrids, the English and aromatic mixes. I find some of those really nice, and of course I've got a big tub of Carter Hall. that that's the garden tobacco.
Yeah, that's what I have in my cob whenever I'm doing yard work. Um,
Yep, that's
how,
it.
you talked about crossovers. Have you tried the things like the Sutliff aromatic English?
I have not. I'm such a creature of habit. I have a hard time with picking new things to try. I usually, with an order, I'll try to pick one new thing or two, and I'll give them a try. And I really appreciate some of the channels that do realistic reviews,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, it kind of helps me make the choice the next time. What I might want to try.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much out there that
Yeah,
I I can't blame anybody for finding something they like and then just settling in.
yeah,
There's I'm one of those guys that likes to try as much as I can in terms of variety, but I've got a half a dozen blends that are my go-tos that I come back to. Now, mine are on the opposite end of the aromatic spectrum, but yeah, you wind up with a handful of blends that I've stocked up deeply on. Can't
yeah.
imagine ever not liking them. Yeah.
I have BCA, which a friend of mine from another group, a Christian pipe smokers group, he said, you got to try this. BCA kind of grew on me. I really enjoy it. Peter Stokeby, I have some Bullseye.
Oh yeah.
Uh, that'll put me in a chair for a while. I'm pretty sensitive to nicotine. I never smoked
Ah.
other than the pipe, so
Mhm.
I'm pretty sensitive to that. So a lot of my blends, they have to stay on the mild side when it comes to nicotine. And So that limits a few of them out, but I do like the flavor of it. I'm not too much into the grassy ones. I used to harvest hay as a kid, and I do not like the smell of hay. But
Well,
that one, I do like Peter Stokkebye's. I've got some English luxury,
mm-hmm.
and I've got the early morning pipe, like a lot of people do, and a little bit of haunted bookshop now and then.
Oh no,
And
that's
on,
a stronger one.
yeah, well, and it was John that got me to try that. If you watch matches at any point, and I did a lot when I first started out, uh, you couldn't watch his channel very long without, if you were a pipe smoker, without saying, "I got to get me some of that."
Yeah, at least
you
have to
know.
try it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Haunted Bookshop was one of the blends that helped me, well, helped save my piping hobby. Uh,
Yeah.
because yeah, I fell in love with that after getting off of aromatics. I fell in love with Haunted Bookshop very early. It isn't in my top five anymore, but it is still.
Yeah.
I still would consider it a favorite blend, if only for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny how those blends that you develop a real affection for can go away. And I don't mean in the industry, but in your likes, in your palate. You can
mhm.
have something for a while, and all of a sudden, I remember years ago, I bought a whole pound of vanilla custard from Sutliff, and yeah, there's probably still a half a pound in in the jar. I just completely decided that I'm not even going to touch that anymore. I cannot stand it. And when I first got it, I thought this is great.
Yeah.
No,
Now I wonder if you could mix it with something and make it palatable. But yeah,
yeah,
palates do shift. That is for sure.
yeah, they do.
I'm with you on the grassy thing. I do happen to love the smell of freshly cut grass or hay,
Mm.
but I don't like it in my pipe.
Yeah,
That's if I'm gonna smoke a Virginia, it's gonna be a Gawith Hogarth black or brown
yeah,
Irish twist, or one of the variants on their brown twist. The rum, the black cherry, that kind of thing. The But in anything that's a variation on their brown Virginias, those dark flavors I really like.
I have some Orlick Golden Slice, and and a lot of these peripheral type things like that. I pull them out on occasion just for a change, and I do like that one. I just wouldn't smoke it regularly,
Mm.
but I do really like it on a change of pace. Maybe I'm out on the porch lighting a little porch fire in the evening, and that's something that's what I'll have. I even have some Crooner from Cornell and Deal, and that is a that is a different blend altogether. So
Yeah, that deer tongue is for a lot of folks it's a love hate thing. I
yeah,
tend I tend to fall on the hate side. I have not yet found a deer tongue blend that I really like. Um, there's just something about it that puts me off.
yeah.
And
I have
folks
I
love.
have one pipe for that because it will ghost a pipe like no tomorrow.
Hmm. Yeah, that it will. Now we've covered blends, pipes. Yeah, do you have a favorite brand or carver or style and shape of pipe?
Well, I have I have always enjoyed bringing back old things. I have the old Willies that I have old vehicles. I'm just when you're a welder and you grow up in the country and a mechanic, you kind of inherit things and you try to make them run again, and that's kind of me. So estate pipes, I love to get a state pipe that's still in good shape, like this one, and I enjoy them a lot. I've found some good suppliers out there that obviously are buying into collections and refurbishing, cleaning them up, things like that. My favorite manufactured pipe, I think, is a Rattray. I think I've said that on the channel more than more than once, but I have a Marlin Rattray is probably my favorite pipe that I have in my collection. The thing is big and solid. It's got a big bowl, and it just smokes perfect to the bottom every time. I've never
Mm.
had it mess up one session. So that is, I'd have smoked it today, except for I just smoked it about 2 days ago.
Give
you know,
another.
but I have the little Marlin, the green one, the Faction. That's a spectacular, and they're both 9 millimeter. Uh, I prefer the 9 millimeters, just because, probably because I smoke so many aromatics, that
Mm.
it helps to cool the smoke a little bit. Keep a little more of that mess down there in the filter. Uh, I have probably maybe 25% that are non-filtered because of the estate pipes. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but Rattray, I have Savinelli, a couple Savinellis. They're good pipes. I like them. My Roma, they're all good pipes, but the Rattray's number one.
Now,
Absolutely.
are your Savinelli 6 millimeter?
Uh, no, they're 9.
Okay, I was just curious because I know that
Yeah,
they do make a lot of sixes.
they do. One of the things I discovered early on was Eddie at Pipe Nook.
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie makes a habit out of trying to carry the 9 millimeter pipes. And a lot of, like you said, a lot of manufacturers in the US at least, you're not going to find too many Savinellis with a 9 millimeter.
Yeah.
But he stocked them, and so that's where I went for a lot of them in that I bought brand new, uh, because I would prefer not to have a whole bookshelf full of pieces for them. But
Right. Well, the American manufacturers that do make filtered pipes tend to go 6 millimeter. You know,
yeah,
your Missouri Mearshams, your Dr. Grabots, the whole Medico Yellow Bowl, the ones that don't have stingers but do have filters, they tend to be a 6 millimeter size. Um,
yeah,
for whatever reason, we've divided across the Atlantic on um,
yeah.
on filter size. But
I have several Cobbs, and I have some Forever filters. I did a little video on how I got the 6 millimeter filter to still work with a Forever stem, because I didn't want to alter the Forever stem because that costs more than the pipe, you
right,
know. But I do enjoy my Cobbs. That they It's surprising to me how well they hold up in our wet, climate here. It's a wetter, cooler climate, and I have some Cobbs that are probably 10 years old, and they're still cranking it out like they did.
mm-hmm.
I have to put them back together every now and then, but
Yeah.
other than that,
I, I'm a Cobb lover myself. Most of what I smoke, except on my Cobb Tuesdays, is Briar. But yeah, I do love my the Cobbs that I've got. Um,
yeah, they do smoke well. And then if you want to smoke something that's strong or has a more of a ghosting capability, that's what I turn to. Break out one of the Cobbs and enjoy what you're going to enjoy, and then
yeah,
let it sit on the shelf for 10 days or 2 weeks, and it'll be fine.
yeah. I find that I tend to smoke aromatics in Cobbs more, just because I like the throwaway balsa filters. Those things
Yeah,
absorb so much gunk if
yeah,
you're smoking an aromatic that
yeah.
you don't really notice how wet they are until you pull that pipe apart and your filter is just mush.
You're like, ew.
Yep, that got stopped before it got into me. Uh,
Exactly. That's
but
what they're for.
that is what they're for. Hey, you mentioned two of the sort of fundamental websites in mutton chop and matches. What got you into the YTPC first as a lurker, a viewer, and then what got you on this side of the camera?
Well, I think, like, a lot of the younger crowd that might be coming along. I'm not young, but but like a lot of the younger crowd that has come along, they use YouTube as a resource. So maybe they've picked up a pipe and they struggled a little bit with it, or maybe they just are smart enough to start there and say, how do you do this thing? And
Mm-hmm.
we use YouTube for recipes and for car repairs and everything else under the sun. And so uh, I had picked up a pipe for probably 4 or 5, 6 months, something like that. And I don't know why it clicked on in my brain to say, well, maybe there's some content on here, and I don't know how many of them that I watched before I found, the big guys, as it
Mm-hmm.
were, but they popped up pretty early, and so probably 6 months into my successful part of the pipe journey, I started watching matches. John wasn't much for teaching you anything about a pipe. He's a great storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
and I love a storyteller, and that
Yeah.
our family was full of them, and so that was just that finally brought me into being able to feel what a pipe could do for if I smoked it right, if I was doing it right, and if I was just sitting there enjoying it. I think he really made that come to life through his videos. I just wanted to relax and to ponder about, maybe nothing in particular. And mutton chops really helped me learn the mechanics of it, the function, how to get myself and the pipe to work together, and how we could, it could bring benefit to. That was what I was looking for.
He did that for a lot of us.
Yeah, and I think the transition to presenter, for me, I'm gonna have to dump out here a little bit. I I have there's a long story between, what I was doing on the side. I was in music production for about 30 years in concerts and things like that. I volunteered at church in a lot of musical capacities. And I started having some problems with my neck. I had cervical disc failures. They thought I was having strokes, all kinds of nutty stuff.
Mm.
And I had to give a lot of that up because I wasn't able to function. I was having migraines. I couldn't see, just a bunch of bad stuff.
Hmm.
And so I took up writing, which was an odd departure from where I was, but I took up writing. And I think becoming a presenter, I was stuck. I've written a couple of books, and I have a blog that I was just cranking out, messages on the blog, and I was doing all this, and all of a sudden we moved and nothing. I just didn't have the motivation to to function that way. I couldn't write. I was still writing, but not finishing anything.
Uh,
And so I was watching, I was lurking for a long time watching these videos because I still enjoy the YTPC and the new presenters. I love the smaller presenters because it's so genuine and personable.
mm-hmm.
It's not to say that you can't have 4 or 5,000, 10,000 followers and not be that way, but by the whole, it was that interaction that I got with some of the smaller presenters. And one day I just decided, maybe I can have some content like that. And it was a real big decision for me to put something online with me with my pipe, because for a lot of years it was like something I did in hiding, not from my family, but from the church and from people who are so judgmental about Christians who might smoke a pipe. It was like, man, if I put this online, here we go.
Yeah.
It's gonna hit the fan, and it didn't. It nothing happened. In fact, now I'm leading a pipes and cigars Bible study from our church.
Yeah.
you
I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I made the jump thinking that maybe it would help me to just create again and finish something. I love post production work. I never was the videographer guy. I was the audio guy.
Gotcha.
But I was a production manager for the entire team. So it's fun laying out videos. It's fun interacting with them. I get as much out of the talk and the chats and the comments after as I do making the videos.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it just took off, and it was fun.
Now, how did you come up with the whole ragamuffin piper thing? What Where'd your channel name come from?
Well, I've always been a little bit of a outside the box thinker. And so when we were doing community outreach at the church I was at, we had a production team, and we always tried to do productions that had non-church people involved with the production side of it. And so it was an outreach. It's not
Mhm.
for just people from the church to do it, is try to get people involved so they can see, hey, we're just regular people. And you know, most of my life that met with a little bit of resistance with the church people because they didn't
Yeah.
like those long-haired, tattooed, earring wearing guys around their place. You know, hey, these guys are smoking out back. Well, I'd rather have them here and taking part than somewhere else. You know,
Right.
so the story of Rich Mullins, I
Hmm.
used to promote a lot of concerts. So unfortunately, he was never one that I got to meet.
Ah,
But his life story and the way that Brennan Manning impacted him in the book, The Ragamuffin Gospel.
okay. Gotcha.
Uh, I had I had to get that book because they kept talking about how it interlaced with his unorthodox look, you know, and view of religiosity.
Hmm.
You know, uh, just being too heavenly minded to be any earthly good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, so in that book, that it took me forever to get through it because I'm not a great reader. I spend too much time trying to make sure I don't miss anything. But the short of it is that the book taught me that you know, we're all broken, we're all rags, and you know it's not up to us to get better or to clean ourselves up. God loves us just the way we are, and I'm like, hey, somebody else is saying the same thing I've been saying for years, and I've been laughed at for it, you know. So we're all ragamuffins. That's one of the things that Brennan got at in his book a lot. And the ragamuffin piper, it's just a title that tells you right off the bat who you're listening to.
And for any of our viewers who aren't familiar, uh, if you're interested at all in a fascinating life story, look up Rich Mullins,
Oh yeah.
Mullins. Very interesting guy. We could spend an entire video talking about his influence in
Oh,
the
yeah.
contemporary Christian world.
Oh, one
Yeah.
of the most talented songwriters
Hmm.
of the modern Christian uh, music movement. I mean, who hasn't heard God? And that 40 years ago, and it's been redone dozens of times. And the guy didn't want it recorded. He, he didn't want commercial. He did not want commercialization of his music, and yet that's where he ended up. And like you said, there's actually a movie on on one of the media sources, I believe, that you can look it up, called Ragamuffin. And if you so are inclined, that is a great movie to teach you the torment of a calling versus a broken person.
Hmm. Yeah, he is very, very, very interesting guy.
Yeah.
Folks, we had some technical difficulties, so we're going to jump right back to where I was going to have him tell us a little bit about his long-term Jeep and off-roading.
Well, the Jeep came around probably in the mid 90s, and I just needed to slow down. It really was a precursor to the pipe, actually. And I drove a long ways to work at that time. It was probably 30 minutes each way. It was about 30 miles, actually, but 28, 30 miles. So I drove that old poor Jeep back and forth to work for about 15 more years like that. No heat, no wipers, no nothing, just just me and that old gray lady. And it was great because from work to home and the end of the day, by the time I got home, I had left everything from work at work.
You bet.
So it was a lot like a pipe in a way that it was just a decompression time, and it became almost like a relationship. That's why she has a name, and she's kind of a family heir. My kids would not allow that vehicle to be sold under any circumstances. None, I
Oh,
can guarantee you.
that's great. I yeah, I've seen a few of your videos with the Gray Lady, and folks, if you haven't, you ought to check them out. They are for those of us who enjoy getting off of pavement. They're like chicken soup for the soul, as the book is
That's
titled.
right.
They're wonderful. Well, Randy, it has been a fantastic time chatting with you, despite our technical difficulties.
Absolutely.
Do you have any parting words or thoughts for our viewers?
Well, I think that the YTPC and the pipe community on YouTube is kind of a it's kind of a big it's a big tent. I don't like to use other people's phrases, but I
Hmm.
know there's a lot of expectations. Sometimes people come to videos for how tos, and sometimes people come to videos for stories. And so, if you are new to the pipe community, or maybe you've been there a long time, look for stuff that you like. Different presenters have they have different things to offer, and if you don't like it, go on to the next one. There are so many good people to just spend some time with. Sometimes you get to see the outdoors. You might get to take a ride in an old Jeep, and you may need some advice on some blends. It's all in there.
Hmm.
And so one of my favorite things about the group of presenters on YouTube for the pipe community is that it's uh it's just a great, generous, kind group. And every bunch has their few naysayers, and don't let those people affect you as a presenter. If you want to do it, tell your stories. That's the greatest thing we have to share with other people, that we've went through, or life lessons that we've learned. And if you want to jump in, it's all about having some fun and making some friends, and just taking part.
Yep, that is so true. Well, folks, I hope you have enjoyed your time with us as much as I have. I'll tell you what, light something you like. We'll see you next time.
See y'all again soon.